What if that was Judd Travers who shot the window?
All right, so this is Shiloh season, book 2 in the Shiloh Chronicles, the Shiloh story. And like we said, now Marty's got Shiloh now. He's Marty's dog. But he we know that Marty feels like it's kind of a shaky deal that they made with Judd. So and now let's see what happens. We're not by no means are we done with the trouble. All right. So let's see what happens here. Let's all be paying attention and focus so you don't miss anything in Shiloh season.
Brand new book.
After Shiloh come to live with us, two things happened. One started out bad and ended good. The other started out good and, well, let me tell you the way it was. Let me try to get this in here better. Most everybody near friendly West Virginia knows how Judd Travers treats his dogs, how he bought this new little beagle to help him hunt, and how the beagle kept running away from Judd's kicks and curses. He ran to me. They know the story of how I hid the dog in a pen I made for him up in our woods and named him Shiloh. Judd just calls his dogs cuss words, and everybody in Tyler County almost heard how a German Shepherd jumped into that pen and tore up Shiloh something awful. And then the secret was out. My dad drove Shiloh over to Doc Murphy, who sewed him up and helped him live. And then, because my friend David Howard has the biggest mouth from here to Sistersville, most everybody knows how I worked for Judd Travers 2 weeks to earn that dog. So now he's mine. Mine, Ma's, and Dad's, and Darylyn's, and Becky's. We all just love him so as he can't hardly stand it sometimes. Tail wags so hard you figure it's about to fly off. Anyway, the thing that started out bad and ended good was that I promised Doc Murphy I'd pay him every cent we owed him for fixing up Shiloh. I looked for bottles and aluminum cans and the whole rest of the summer, but only earned $2.70. When I took it to Doc Murphy, though, so he could subtract it from our bill, he says I can work off the rest, same as I worked for Judd. Next to Judd telling me I can have Shiloh for my own, that was the best news I had heard in a long time. And now for the good part that turned bad and then worse. After figuring that everything's okay now between me and Judd Travers, he gave me a collar for Shiloh. He even gave me a collar for Shiloh. Judd starts drinking. Not that he didn't drink before. Got a belly on him like a watermelon sticking out over his belt buckle, but now he's drinking hard. First time I know anything about it, I'm coming up the road from Doc Murphy's, and Shiloh trotting along ahead or behind. That dog always finds something old he's got to smell twice or something new he ain't smelled at all, and his legs can hardly get him there fast enough. I think he was down in the creek while I was working at Doc's, and he's trying to make like he was with me the whole time. I'm following along thinking how happiness is a wet dog with a full stomach when I hear this truck coming up the road behind me. I can tell by the sound that it's going faster than it should. My first thought as I turn my head is that if it don't slow down, it won't make the bend. And then I see that it's Judd Travers' pickup. I take a flying leap into the field like I'm doing a belly flop in Middle Island Creek. And for a couple seconds, I can't even breathe. It's knocked the wind right out of me. I watch the truck go off the road a couple feet farther on, and then weave back on again, over to the other side, and finally it starts slowing down for the bridge. Shiloh comes running back, licks my face to see if I'm all right. The question in my mind is, did Judd try to run me over, or didn't he even see me? He's that drunk. And if Shiloh had been behind me instead of up front, would I be looking at a dead dog right now? Judd almost ran me over, I say that night at supper. He what? Says Ma. I tell my folks what happened. He do it on purpose? Asked Darylyn. Ma's fixed white beans and cornbread with little chunks of red ham in the beans, and Darylyn's counting out the pieces of ham on her plate, wants to be sure she got as many as Ma gave me. I don't know, I tell her. Ma looks at Dad. This is serious, Ray. Dad nods. I guess I've been hearing right then. They say Judd's been stopping off at a bar down near Ben's Run. Does his drinking nights and weekends. Ma's anxious. You'd best keep off the road, Marty, she says. You too, Darylyn. You hear his truck coming, give him plenty of room. All he's going to do is get himself arrested, I say. Why does he start drinking so hard all of a sudden? Even I know that when a person does that, it means he's bothered. Maybe he's thirsty, says Becky, and we all laugh. Becky's 3, and Darylyn laughs too, even though it's something she might have said. Darylyn's 7. I'm 4 years older than that, and supposed to set an example for my sisters, says Ma, which is why it was so hard on my folks when they found out I'd been hiding Judd's dog up in our woods. I think Judd drinks because he's unhappy, says Ma. She smooths out the margarine on her piece of cornbread, then takes a real slow bite. Maybe he misses Shiloh, says Becky, trying again. I wish she hadn't said that. Why? Asked Darylyn. He's got all those other dogs to keep him company. Ma Chu is real thoughtful. I think he looks in the mirror and don't like what he sees, she says. The fact that his dog kept running away and coming to you, Marty, and the way you kept on working for Judd, even though he called you a fool, I think that made him take a good hard look at himself. And it wasn't pretty. Becky nods her head up and down. Judd's not pretty, she says, real serious, and we laugh again. All this time, my dad is breaking up his cornbread over his pile of beans, and then he eats it mixed together, and I notice he's the one not laughing. What's worrying me is that Judd's been hunting in our... Shh, quiet, please. What's worrying me is that Judd's been hunting up in our woods, I think. Rabbits, I expect. I found a beer can up there, the brand that Judd drinks, and heard a couple shots yesterday, same as last weekend. We've got those woods posted, Ma says, meaning we had signs up around the property saying we don't allow any hunting. But poachers sneak in there sometimes anyway. Up in our woods, and even in our meadow on the far side of the hill. Her gray eyes are fixed on Dad now. Ray, you've got to tell him. I don't want him up there drunk, firing his gun off every which way. One of those bullets could end up down here. I'll talk to him, Dad says. I'm real quiet then. In fact, I'm through with the beans on my plate. Been thinking about taking a second helping, but suddenly I'm not hungry anymore. So I go outside and sit on the steps. It's been real warm and dry for September, and I like to catch a breeze. Shiloh comes over and lies down beside me, head on my leg. Then he takes this big, contented sigh and closes his eyes. What my folks don't know, what nobody knows except me and Judd Travers, is how the only way I got Judd to let me keep his dog was that I saw him shoot a deer out of season. A doe it was, too. And when he knew I could report him to the game warden, I would have, too. He said I could keep Shiloh if I kept my mouth shut about the doe, and if I worked for him 2 solid weeks. I swear Judd must have laid awake at night, thinking of the hardest and meanest jobs he had for me to do. But I did them, every one. So a promise is a promise, even if I shouldn't have made it in the first place. There wasn't any point in telling the secret now anyway. The doe and all traces of the killing were long gone. I lean against the porch post and stroke the top of Shiloh's head, smooth as corn silk. Here I thought now that Judd and me were almost, but not quite friends. You couldn't be real friends with a man like Judd Travers. I wouldn't have had to worry anymore. Wait a minute. Here I thought now that Judd and me were almost, but not quite friends. You couldn't be real friends with a man like Judd Travers. I wouldn't have to worry anymore. But Ma says drink will make a person do things he never in this world thought he'd do. And you put a drink in Judd Travers, you got a bomb just waiting to blow up. He might not try to run over Shiloh or shoot him out of spite, but what if he's up in our woods hunting and Shiloh runs through? What if Judd shoots at the first thing that moves? After supper, Dad comes out and he's carrying this beer can he found in our woods. He puts it on the front seat of the Jeep, then climbs in and heads down the driveway. I watch the Jeep pause way out by the road and then turn right and go past the mill. It crosses the rusty bridge to the old Shiloh schoolhouse, that's been closed as long as I can remember. After that, it's out of sight. And I know that in 2 or 3 minutes, Dad will pull up outside the trailer where Judd Travers lives. So let's stop. What's he going to Judd Travers' house for? Why is he going there? Christian?
Don't stop poaching in their
On their property, right?
lawn. Yeah, in their property, because it could really hurt one of their family members or Shiloh.
Exactly. And he's taking one of the beer cans with him. Why do you think he's doing that? Why is he taking one of Judge Lexi? Why is he doing that?
To show him proof.
Yeah, it's kind of like proof that you've been up here. So that's where Dad's here. Just predictions. How do you think this conversation's going to go with Judd, between Ray and Judd? Adeline, what do you think? How do you think this conversation will go?
That Judd will say that he was not hunting in there.
Like maybe he'll say I wasn't there, right? And maybe he'll lie about it. What do you think, other people? Anyone else? How do you think the conversation's going to go? Think it'll be a good one?
No.
Yeah. Judging on by the way that Judd's acting right now, drinking too much, probably not. So he's heading to Judd Travers. I listen. Yep. About 2 minutes later, way off in the distance, I hear all Judd's dogs barking at once, which means they hear the Jeep. All those dogs are mean as nails, because the only time Judd don't keep them chained is when he takes them hunting. I figure that about this time Judd's looking out his window, wondering who's driving up to see him at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. Then he'll get up and come to the door in his undershirt. Dad will walk up the boards that serve as Judd's sidewalk, and they'll stand on Judd's step a while, talking about the kind of weather we've been having, and are the apples going to be any good this fall, and when is the county going to fix that big pothole just this side of the bridge. And finally, after they say all that, Dad will show Judd the beer can and say he's sure Judd didn't mean to wander off up into our woods when he was hunting, but Dad figures the beer can is his, and he's been hearing these shots. He surely would appreciate it, he'll say, if Judd wouldn't hunt in our woods. He don't like to make a fuss, but when a man's got children, he's got to look out for them. My mind can think up about a dozen ways Judd can answer back, none of them polite. But I don't let myself dwell on it. I'm running my hand over Shiloh's head real slow, and I can tell by his eyes how he likes it. If Shiloh was a cat, he'd purr. Becky comes out to sit beside me and pulls her dress up to let the cool air fan her belly. Shouldn't do that way, Becky, I tell her. You got to start teaching her young, or she'll do like that down in Sistersville sometime, not think twice about it. Why, says Becky smart-like, and pushes her face right up against mine. 'Cause it's not ladylike to show your underpants is why, I tell her. I figure that's how Ma would answer. Darylyn's out on the porch now, still eating a handful of cornbread crumbs, and she hears what I say to Becky. I can tell by her eyes she's up to mischief. Wipes her hands on her shorts, then sticks her thumbs down inside the elastic and starts snapping it as hard as she can. Snap, snap, snap. The elastic on her shorts and underpants both, just to rile me. Of course, Becky laughs, and then she's doing it too, both of them snapping away at their underpants in a wild fit of the giggles. Girl children are the strangest people in the world sometimes. But then I hear the Jeep coming back. Darylyn hears it too and stops being crazy. Finally, Becky gives up, and we all watch Dad's Jeep, the one he delivers his mail in, come across the old rusty bridge and again on up the road, and then turn in at our driveway. Ma comes out on the porch, hands resting on her hips. Well, she says as Dad gets out, what did he say? Dad don't answer for a moment, just walks over to the house and throws the beer can in our trash barrel. Might be a good idea if the kids don't play up in the woods for a while, he says. Ma stares after him as he goes inside. So, judging by the way Marty's dad's acting, how do you think the conversation went? Not good? Why, Lexi? Why do you say it probably didn't go well?
Because of how, he's saying they shouldn't go, he's probably going to keep on doing that.
Right. Said they probably shouldn't go up in the woods. Right? If it was settled, he'd probably feel good about his kids going up in the woods, but he doesn't. So, yeah, it's probably not settled. So the conversation probably did not go very So that is chapter 1 of Shiloh's season. Whoops. Let me stop.
Can we read chapter 2?
Not today. I got something else for you to do. So let me stop the record really quick.